Hey, what's up, budget warriors and history buffs? Today we're diving into a fascinating and frankly frustrating topic. You know, those super fancy, expensive things? The ones that signal wealth and status? Well, a lot of them used to be absolute trash. I'm talking about stuff people were embarrassed to eat or use until the rich decided they were chic. Get ready, because we're looking at 3 things that were cheap until rich people discovered them. We have to start with the king of all reversals, the lobster. When you picture luxury food, you picture a big, beautiful red lobster, right? But rewind a few hundred years, and this wasn't dinner. It was a pest. On the coasts of Massachusetts in the 17th and 18th centuries, lobsters were so abundant they'd wash ashore in 2-foot-high piles. Seriously. They were considered poor man's food, or even worse, the cockroach of the ocean. Colonists and servants were sick of eating it. It was used as fertilizer, fish bait, and was the main protein fed to prisoners and indentured servants. In fact, some servants even had clauses in their contracts limiting how often they could be fed lobster. Imagine that. I'll sign, but only 3 lobster dinners a week max. So, how did this cheap prison slop end up on $100 a plate menus? The train. In the mid-19th century, canned lobster meat became a cheap source of protein to feed soldiers. Then, as railroads expanded inland, train dining cars started serving it. Why? Because it was cheap for the rail company. People in the Midwest who had no idea about its coastal trash reputation thought it was a fancy, exotic delicacy. The reputation flipped. By the 1920s, a decline in stock combined with this new perception as a rare delicacy for travelers drove the price way up. It went from the food of the lowest class to the ultimate symbol of affluent dining. Now you pay a fortune for what your great-grandpappy's livestock used to eat. Ouch. Next up is the fruit that was. Basically the 18th century equivalent of parking a Ferrari on your lawn. The pineapple. Today, you can grab a pineapple for a few bucks at the grocery store. But 300 years ago, this spiky fruit was the ultimate status symbol. Pineapples were imported from the Caribbean and South America. Before global refrigeration and fast transport, getting a delicate, fresh pineapple to Europe or North America was a monumental, expensive, and time-consuming task. A single pineapple in 18th century Europe could cost the equivalent of up to $8,000 in today's money. Yes, you heard that right. The wealthy didn't just eat it. They showed it off. People would literally rent a pineapple for the evening to display at their dinner parties. It was the centerpiece, a sign that you had the wealth and connections to possess something so rare and exotic. They'd parade it around, let guests marvel at it, and then return it to be rented out again. It was a rental trophy. As mass production, faster ships, and eventually, canning made the fruit widely accessible, its status faded. But for a good chunk of history, the simple pineapple was a symbol of extreme, almost unbelievable wealth. Okay, this last one hits close to home for a lot of people today. I'm talking about thrifting. Thrift stores, flea markets, and second-hand shops used to be essential resources. They were places for people with lower incomes to afford clothing, furniture, and household items. The clothes were cheap because they were used. Simple supply and demand. This was a necessity. It was how working-class families clothed their kids, furnished their first apartments, and stretched every dollar. Then, social media, the rise of vintage culture, and the wealthy's search for unique, sustainable, and authentic style came into play. Thrifting became cool. It became an aesthetic. Once wealthier, more affluent shoppers started entering the scene. 2 things happened. Prices exploded. Shops and online resale platforms realized they could charge more because people were willing to pay more. Those $5 jeans are now authentic vintage for $40 or more. And the biggest tragedy is that the people who relied on these low prices are now being pushed out of their own spaces. What was a community resource has become a highly profitable marketplace. It's the same story of gentrification. As soon as something becomes desirable to the rich, the cost rises, and those who built the culture or needed the resource are often the first to be displaced. Whether it's an armored sea creature, a spiky tropical fruit, or a local community shop, the cycle repeats. Abundance makes things cheap. The wealthy's desire for the exotic or authentic elevates its status, and suddenly it's out of reach for the very people who originally used it. It's a bizarre little history lesson that shows us money can turn almost anything, even yesterday. Trash into today, treasure. What shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the weird world of wealth and history. I'll catch you next time. Peace.